So we have an episode of The Next Generation named First Contact, and we have a Next Generation movie named First Contact, and then we have an episode that's parodying Next Generation in Lower Decks called First Contact. But does that mean that we're going to then get a parody Lower Decks movie called First Contact? I'm not saying it has to exist. What I am saying is I want it to exist. Hello interwebs, I hope you're doing well because I am super excited and somewhat melancholically sad because we have come to the season finale of the first season of Star Trek Lower Decks, aka the second season of Star Trek Lower Decks, First Contact. I am very excited to review this episode. This episode is great, and I'm going to give my spoiler-free thoughts in just a second, but I just have to say, I am melancholically sad that we have reached yet another season finale of Lower Decks. While there's certainly a lot of Star Trek on the horizon, we got Prodigy and Discovery coming up in just a few short weeks because, as a reviewer, I get no rest. But then we also have Picard and Strange New Worlds coming out on the heels of that, and then another season of Lower Decks pretty soon after that. But Lower Decks is my current favorite Star Trek show on the air right now, and I've just loved this season so much, and to honestly see it wrap out its second season on such a high note, I will give a spoiler for that in my... You know what I mean. It's a spoiler-free thing, but you get what I'm trying to say. Anyways, it goes out on a high note, but I'm just sad to see it go, and I'm very excited to see what comes next for Season 3. But enough of me waxing poetically about the state of Star Trek and my love of Lower Decks. We can save that for my After Dark segments. Let's get into my spoiler-free thoughts on this finale. So, spoiler-free thoughts up front. I'm just going to say, and I mean this as a high form of compliment. This is not an insult at all. This is a very high form of compliment, but this is honestly probably one of the least funniest episodes of Lower Decks I've seen. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely some good jokes and some great surprises and cameos and Easter eggs and all that stuff that we come to know and love from Lower Decks in this episode, and some of them are some of the best that I've seen even this season. Yet, also this episode, I didn't find myself laughing a lot, but I was really deeply invested in the storyline and plot. In fact, this episode felt like a truly... grand and epic episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, or even one of the movies, quite frankly, in terms of some of the epic awesomeness that happens in this finale. But it felt more like it was sort of playing it straight in a lot of ways, because we got some really great character arcs and moments, some really great character beats, some heartwarming beats as well that really honestly just moved me and it really just showed me how much I've fallen in love with these characters and how much these characters have progressed or digressed in interesting ways that, you know, other characters are recognizing in this season. I'm thinking specifically of Mariner here. She gets some really great moments where people call her out on stuff and point out some of the flaws that I've been pointing out from her this entire season. It just was a really wonderful job, and just the fact that I was able to just invest so much in this episode, with it not being, you know, one of the most comedic episodes, I think just speaks to how strongly this show is written, that it doesn't need to rely on the jokes. As much as I love them, don't get me wrong, I love the comedy aspects of Lower Decks, and I would not want it to lose that. In fact, I love the show being more comedically focused, and I hope that, you know, this episode isn't like the standard. But for every once in a while, just to have these moments where it's just like, no, we're going to really hone in on these characters, really hone in on this situation, really make you feel the stakes of what's happening here. I think this works. And for me, I don't think this was as mind-blowingly awesome and one that just got me so excitedly pumped and just energetic as last episode was, because that one was just so clever and nuanced and radically outside the norm. This just felt like a good, classic, epic, wonderfully written episode of Star Trek of any era, while also adding a little bit of fun jokes and Easter eggs and all the Lower Decksian flavor that we've come to love with characters that we love. So this finale was truly wonderful. And then on top of that, there's some really great storylines that this show is definitely seeding for next season that I'm very pumped about, and it's showing the confidence that the show has, where last season, a lot of the storylines were fairly closed off at the end of the season. There was a couple little things, but nothing really big and nothing alluding towards anything bigger. This season definitely has two major storylines that are definitely loaded for Season 3, and I am super excited to explore, and honestly am kind of just like, why? I want to know what happens next! Which, for a comedy show to really have me excited about what's happening next, is an honest to God, just exciting win. I am so pumped for next season of the show, but let's continue to talk about this episode in my spoiler section. So if you haven't seen the episode, we're going to talk spoilers in just a second, but I want to give a quick announcement before we get there, because we do have Star Trek Prodigy coming up in 2 weeks, the new Star Trek show on Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus. I'm very excited about the show. I'm very pumped for Prodigy, but I just want to let everyone know that because I don't think that those reviews are going to do super well in the algorithm, and I need to keep my videos doing well in the algorithm to sort of help my channel and help my videos be seen, because you start doing badly in the algorithm, you don't get seen as much. I am going to be putting those reviews over on my secondary channel, Jessie Gender After Dark. So if you want to see my reviews of Star Trek Prodigy, I will be doing them. I'll probably be posting a few short videos to remind people that those are up, but they are going to go over on my secondary channel, so you can find the link down below if you want to go subscribe there so you don't miss those. For Star Trek Discovery, which is coming a few weeks after Prodigy in November, I'm debating still whether I want to keep them here or keep them on the other channel, so all my Star Trek reviews are in one place. I'll sort of debate that as I get closer. I think Star Trek Discovery, because it's a live action show, will probably do better, so it might be worth still doing on this channel. So just keep an eye out. I'll inform people and let people know where those are eventually going to live. But for now, Star Trek Prodigy is definitely going to be on Jessie Gender After Dark, so please go check out over there if you want to make sure that you don't miss my reviews of every single one of those episodes, because I am very excited about them, and unfortunately it's more of a business decision to keep them on that channel rather than this one. Nothing against the show at all, because I think it's going to be excellent. But that being said, enough annoying business stuff out of the way. Let's get in the episode, because I'm excited to talk about it. Don't know, I suddenly devolved into Shatner there for a second, but it's fine. I don't know why I'm still punching things, but we're good. Let's go for it. Let's talk about the episode. So the episode starts off with the Cerritos in dry dock at a star base, and we meet up with a beautiful, what looks to be like an updated Excelsior class ship. I don't know if it's an actual Excelsior class or like an updated version, but it looks like a very sexy Excelsior class, the Archimedes, captained by none other than Sonia Gomez herself. Yes, Sonia Gomez from way back in Star Trek The Next Generation. Last time we saw her, she was the ensign that was spilling coffee on Picard. In fact, I looked up the actress, and by the way, the actress Lycia Naff is playing her again. Nice, it's really wonderful to see her back. She was such a fan favorite character. She was supposed to come back in more episodes, but she only showed up in one episode. And I just love the fact that when I looked up the actress to make sure I got her name right, the second question that people ask about Sonia Gomez is who spilled coffee on Picard. So people love Sonia Gomez, but the thing they remember about her is always she spilled coffee on Picard. And we were always so excited about her coming back, but sadly, I think some stuff just behind the scenes just didn't work out. I don't remember the specifics, but it's nice to see her back, and nice to see that she finally got a command of her own, and she seemed like a truly excellent captain. And she's on a mission to do a first contact of the Lipian homeworld with the Cerritos sort of coming in as backup behind them, but she's going to take the 4. And it also turns out she reveals that to Captain Freeman that she's going to get a promotion. Yes, the promotion that she's been working for this entire season, which is exciting to hear for Captain Freeman. Also, it's a nice little quick note that the Admiral giving the briefing on the situation is Captain Freeman's husband. We don't really get much exploration of that. They don't really lean into that all that much, which is kind of surprising. This is the first time he's actually been physically in the show. He's mostly been on view screens. So I found it weird that they didn't really address that they are married, or maybe used to be married. It's never actually 100% made clear, I don't think, but that they're Mariner's parents. So that's sort of interesting that he was there, but they don't really do much with it. But in the hallway outside the room, we have Mariner carrying some Andorian ale, some contraband, and she runs into Jennifer, the hated Andorian that we've been seeing a few times this season and saw in the background of last season. But obviously Mariner keeps saying how much she hates Jennifer. Again, I like this little seeding of this element because it will come back up later about how Mariner is trying to push away Jennifer. Jennifer says, I don't really think about you much, when Mariner says, oh, I hope you don't count me in for contraband. That's like the worst thing to hear from someone. It's like that they don't think about you. But this is kind of what Mariner does. It's showing how much Mariner pushes people away from her. And this is the arc that we've seen this entire season. Like, she's pushed Boimler away from her. She's pushed Tendi away from her at certain points in this season. So this is just a reiteration of that, and also sort of setting up a mini arc for Mariner in this episode. So wonderful setup there, and a wonderful little joke as well. Also, don't think I didn't notice, and I'll be coming back to this later, that Mariner says, oh, your cute little butt, or to Jennifer. We'll be coming back to that. We'll be coming back to that little tidbit. Don't think I didn't notice, writers. I noticed what you're doing. I get it. I see it. I see you. So then we go meet with the lower deckers down in the cargo bay, where Mariner is really upset because she overheard that Freeman is getting the promotion, and Boimler's getting ready for Captain Freeman Day, kind of like Captain Picard Day. It's supposed to be like a kids. Everyone keeps bringing up that it's supposed to be like a thing for kids, but Boimler's like really into it. He's like, I want to have a Captain Freeman Day. He's making like the same like sort of kid-looking banner. Fun running gag throughout the entire episode. Also, Rutherford's having issues with his implant. He's starting to have some problems, things come up, some errors coming up. Tendi also is upset because Dr. Ta'ana wants to talk to her, and Tendi's worried that there might be something wrong, that she's going to get yelled at or demoted or something like that. But Rutherford sort of eases her mind. But also, Mariner kind of gets this idea that she's going to tell the rest of the upper decker crew members about Freeman's promotion to make them upset at Freeman. So we kind of split off into these different different storylines. Tendi goes off to meet with Dr. Ta'ana, and we see Dr. Ta'ana deleting her from the medical staff database, implying that she's going to fire her. So she freaks out and goes and finds Rutherford, who calms her down. And Tendi says, like, I don't want to leave the Cerritos. I love being here. And Rutherford says, well, if you're going to leave, there's not much we can do about it, but we're going to go show you your favorite areas around the ship. And they go look at the warp core. They go look at a hot grate, because there's not, like, it's a starship that all the corridors look the same. And it's actually very sweet. And they go back to the corridor from way back in season 1 where they watched the nebula go off, kind of one of those early romantic moments between the two. And they both admit their love for the Cerritos. So they haven't yet admitted their love for each other, but they admitted their love for the Cerritos in a very sweet moment. And then they go and hang out in the captain's yacht, which we'll come back to in just a second. But regardless, we go over to Mariner, who goes to meet up with the upper decker crew in the bar. We also get a little tidbit here that Phillips is getting hit on by one of the waitresses, and it kind of makes him uncomfortable, which is interesting because we've kind of had this running idea of Phillips possibly being asexual. I mean, even last episode, I didn't mention it in my review, but Phillips during the orgy scene was just sort of sitting there doing notes on his notepad, not engaging in the sex, sort of again implying that he is asexual at the possibly, or just doesn't want to engage in sex. Still unsure whether that is the case or not, but certainly there's a tendency to lean that way. And so I could definitely read the scene as him being uncomfortable with being flirted with by someone else. But then again, we don't know if he's aromantic either. So we'll sort of see what that goes. I'm curious to see about if he's just asexual, aromantic, both, anything like that, or neither. So it'll be sort of interesting to see that, but I like that little hinting there. But Mariner goes and smoozes up to everybody, and I love the line where she's like, oh, I know you want to have the air of command, and like Ransom's like, I am your commander, which is great. But she tells them about Freeman's promotion, which upsets them because we later on go up to the bridge, and everyone's really pissed off and upset at Freeman for getting the promotion and not telling them. So there's like some allusions to that, and everyone getting upset. And so Captain Freeman calls everyone into a ready room, and I love, there's some really great lines where they like call her out. It's like, you should have told us. And Jack says, I'm glad I'm so spiritually centered. I'd be pissed off right now. Clearly he's a pissed off dude. I also love that Phillips gets really upset. It's like, come on, the Cerritos is the best. It has the greatest warp core, like getting like really defensive about the warp core, which was really, really funny. I've been really liking the character building of Phillips. We didn't really get to see much of his character throughout last season, and the past 3 or 4 episodes has really built him up and given him a lot more depth very quickly, and I've enjoyed that quite a bit. The Mariner sort of calls out like, well, they're your friends. You should have told them. Sort of a little bit of projecting onto Captain Freeman because, Mariner never trusts her own friends. So I like that little bit of projection onto Captain Freeman because she's just trying to stir the pot. And as she later admits, she's just upset that Captain Freeman is leaving her because she just started getting to hang out with her, as we saw last episode, and started enjoying their relationship. Little seeding of projection on Mariner's part, but also like showing off why she's actually really upset. But then over on the Archimedes, we see Sonia Gomez arrive at the planet and, sort of order them to start beginning first contact preparations. There's also a wonderful little scene where an ensign trips and falls on the bridge, and Sonia Gomez helps her up. And she says, I'm so sorry, Captain. And Sonia's like, oh, I've done much worse to even more stern captains, obviously implying the time that she spilled coffee on Captain Picard. It was a very sweet moment, a nice little allusion to that, and I like showing that little bit of seeding of Sonia Gomez's character here. Again, it's so wonderful to see her back and as a captain. It's just so nice to see that arc of it, like the character who was very bumbling and sort of nervous and scared reach that place where she's now a captain. It kind of reminds me also of Tilly's arc in Star Trek Discovery. It's a nice little mirror of that, and like time sort of reflecting itself across the ages. But then a solar flare occurs, knocking an asteroid off course, blowing it up and sending basically sends like techno-babbly stuff, basically depowers the Archimedes, and it starts falling down towards the planet, creating a debris field that the Cerritos cannot get through because they will also lose power if they go through it because it'll contact the hull. Again, techno-babbly nonsense, but works for me. It sets up the stakes of the situation very well. Also, I should say it's kind of ancillary to the episode, so I'll just sort of address it here. There's wonderful scenes as the ship is falling down to the planet with Sonia Gomez leading her crew, and it's again played very straight here. Not a lot of jokes here, but Sonia Gomez just being a good commander. Like we see her start trying to fix the shuttle and saying like, hey, if we fixed it, we could at least divert the ship or save crew members. And when someone says you need to take a rest, she says, no, I'm not taking a rest. I could sleep in 7 hours when we're dead. Also, just the moments on the bridge where they're about to go down and she is saying, everyone go save yourselves. And because she's inspired so much loyalty in her crew, they choose to die with her on the bridge. And so I thought that was very sweet. Again, it was just nice to see this arc for Sonia Gomez. Again, it's very ancillary to the rest of the episode, but it's just nice to see that evolution of her character from Next Generation. You can definitely tell that the writers just really wanted to pay off and do well by her character and seem to have very much an affinity for her character, considering she started off as a lower decks crew member. Very much of that ethos of this show, that lower deckers can become the upper deckers and become, better commanders and people through that effort. The effort yields its own reward, as they say. Anyways, Freeman decides that she's going to use the captain's yacht to try and pilot through the debris field to try and save the Archimedes because they can't bring the Cerritos through, but Mariner and Freeman start arguing on the captain's yacht. And Freeman calls Mariner out saying like, hey, no, you need to learn to drop your defenses. You need to learn to trust other people. That's your real problem. It's not me. It's that you don't trust other people. And then Rutherford and Tendi come out of the back room having figured out a solution, and Rutherford's like, yeah, we need to lower the defenses of the Cerritos just like Mariner needs to drop her defenses, which was great little echoing of the theme there. But apparently there's this idea that if they take off all the hull plating off the Cerritos, they can use the secondary hull to protect them, but then still navigate through the debris field without losing all the power. And this sort of sets off the entire crew going off to do this effort. And there's some really wonderful scenes. This is a really grand epic moment where we're just basically getting the starship naked. Like, I mean, people think that last episode, the orgy scene with Lower Decks was too much, but now we're getting naked starships. So come on. Well, there's nothing more sexier than that. Nothing sexier than a naked starship. Some cool stuff in here is that when the crew is all taking off the hull plating, Phillips goes up to Rutherford, who's talking about his implant going off, and we learn that he's been triple backing up all of his memories of Tendi because he didn't want to forget her. He didn't want to take any chance of losing his memories of her again. Again, alluding to their sweet sort of romance that's been going on in the background. And Phillips says, if you can't make any new memories, does it matter if you forget her? Because time moves forward. It's always about being with the person in the moment. And it was very, very sweet and very, very wonderful. And it just made me very happy to see that little moment, and Phillips being the one to understand that kind of goes against this idea that just because you don't have sex doesn't mean you can't understand relationships. I thought was very sweet. There's also another really cool sequence where Ransom, because he's going to be piloting the Cerritos through the debris field, he's like, we can't use a dead view screen, so they take off the view screen and they have to like look through just open space in order to guide the ship, which was badass. That was, I'll be honest, that was so cool. Maybe a reference to Star Trek Nemesis where they sort of lost the view screen there, but either way, it's very, very cool. Mariner and Freeman have another argument, and Mariner says she never wants to talk to Freeman again, and so again started calling out Mariner not being willing to listen to anybody, worried that Freeman's going to abandon her. But then we also get another scene where Phillips can't get off the last hull plating, and so the lower decks crew members have to take off the hull plating while the Cerritos is just going into the debris field. But then this leads us to another really intriguing scene, because Rutherford realized that his memory's all filled up, so he decides to delete all the backup memory of Tendi. Very sweet moment. He's doing it so he can be with her in the moment. But then when he deletes all the memory, he gets a strange memory of these dark shadows who say, oh, they were the ones that put the implant on him, and they'll make him forget that he wasn't the one that wanted it. They'll make him think that he wanted it, sort of implying that his implant was not Rutherford's choice. Interesting plotline that they don't deal with the rest of this episode. Clearly a plotline that they're setting up for season 3 of who actually put the implant onto Rutherford's face. Very interesting. Is he a spy sort of thing? Curious, and it clearly isn't the Packlettes because these are competent people, so it's definitely not leaning into that. So is it Cardassians? Romulans maybe? Someone else that we don't know? Very curious to see where this storyline is going, but I don't think we have enough right at the moment to know who it is other than it's not the Packlettes. But the crew goes down to Cetacean Ops. We finally get to see Cetacean Ops, by the way. That's so exciting. I know Sean Fenrick over at Trek Culture will be very pleased about this. They've been teasing Cetacean Ops for a long time now. It's been there since the very first episode of the series. For those of you who don't know, Cetacean Ops was something that was alluded to in the starship schematics of Star Trek The Next Generation, that there was this like water ops station with like alien like fish people that could go there, and there was little dolphins drawn on the schematics. This was like in the pitch for Next Generation, but never got actually used or seen on the show. So finally getting to see it on Lower Decks is like 20 years in the making of this, and very, very wonderful to finally see it, this underwater op station. And we get 2 little dolphin crew members who are absolutely adorable, and apparently one is horny? I don't really know if they were going for horny dolphin. I mean, I'm here for horny dolphin, but keeps asking Rutherford and everyone to go swimming with him. Like, get your body into this water. Very adorable. I like that they speak in dolphin and have like dolphin illusions. Like when Boimler says, "Oh, Captain Freeman Day," and they said, "Oh, that's for calves," like dolphin calves for kids. It was a great little bit. I loved that. So the dolphins were wonderful, but this also leads to a longer situation where Freeman's the one that wants to go and try and turn the hull plating that's underneath the water in order to save the ship. Now, why would they put this hull plating thing underwater in an area where, like, the dolphins can't do it because it's not designed for flippers is beyond me. Don't know who designed that starship thing, but then again, starships also have like 50-mile long shafts that people can fall down, as we see in Nemesis and Star Trek V. So who knows who's designing these things. But Mariner says she wants to be the one to do it because, she has to take care of everyone. She has to be self-reliant, calling out this idea that she's not willing to rely on anyone. She's not willing to trust anyone, that she distanced herself from everyone. And Tendi snaps at her saying, "We'll be there for you. We are your family. We will take care of you. We will be there for you, and you need to go and tell tell your mother that you apologize to her and go and make sure she doesn't get us killed, which was very, very sweet. And I love that Tendy's the one that calls her out on this. Like, we are your family. We care about you. Trust us to do this. You don't need to be so self-reliant. And this has been Mariner's arc this entire season, to trust others. And she does. And I love that payoff to her arc here. I think that's very, very sweet. She rushes up to the bridge and tells Freeman that, she apologizes, and Freeman also apologizes, and they say they care about each other. And Freeman goes with Jennifer up by the view screen to help guide Ransom through the debris field, calling out where there's asteroids on the side of the ship. That was so badass. But back in Station Ops, Boimler is the one to take on the job of going underwater and turning the dial with the help of the dolphins. Which this is again showing Boimler's arc of being the commander, being those person who's willing to put himself in danger, being the one to be a strong leader. So I absolutely loved this, again, evolution of his arc that we've been seeing these past few episodes too. So we're getting payoff for his arc as well here. Really wonderful stuff. He goes underwater. He eventually tries to turn the handle and get the hull plating off so that the Cerritos can make it through, but he almost drowns as a result of that. I was actually like, whoa, are they gonna kill Boimler? I should have known better, but I actually got worried. It's it's finale. It's conceivable they could do it, considering we also have a Vulcan character presumably possibly coming in next season from last episode. So I was like, are they going to replace Boimler with her? I don't know. So I should have known better, but it was just, I did have a little bit of worry there for a hot second. But Boimler gets saved by Tendi, proving that she is a good, competent medical officer. But up on the bridge, Mariner gets sucked out into space just as Cerritos gets through the debris field. And I love that as she's falling, it is Freeman who comes out and saves her and catches her and says that she loves her. Very nice sort of end to their arc, that they care about each other. So the Cerritos rescues the ship, the Archimedes, right at the last moment. And so Captain Freeman gets to be the one to go down and do first contact with this new race who just seems to want to bra and be awesome. And I love them for that. But she gets to be the one to do it because Sonia Gomez is busy dealing with her ship. We also get a small little scene with Tendi, who she goes to Dr. Ta'ana, and she says, I'm sorry, I guess I'm not cut out to be in the medical field. And Dr. Ta'ana's like, yes, you don't belong here in sickbay because you're too good, you're too competent. I'm going to put you on the science officer command track. And I love that Tendy's just very excited about this. She says, Judsia Dax? And Dr. Ta'ana's like, I don't know who that is. You mean Spock? It's I know who Jessie Dax is, and I'm very excited that Tendi, her first impulse is to go to Jessie Dax over Spock. Girl after my own heart. It's why I love Tendi so much. She thinks of Jessie Dax when she thinks of Spock. I love this girl. I love Tendi so much. My favorite character on the show, bar none. I don't think I could identify with another character more than Tendi ever in Star Trek. I love her. But then we get another little scene in the bar where everyone's celebrating Captain Freeman Day. And my favorite moment in this whole bit is Boimler asks, does Captain Freeman know that I was the one that made the sign? And Mariner's like, I think she thinks a kid did it. And Boimler's like, oh, Captain Freeman, I need you to know that I did it. So adorable. It's it was me, Captain Freeman. I drew the sign. You little dork, Boimler. We also get another scene, and then I told you I would come back to this. We get another scene with Mariner and Jennifer, and it's sort of a nice little mini arc for Mariner, just showing she apologizes to Jennifer. Jennifer says, I've been a jerk, and Mariner says, I'm a jerk to people that I like, and so I just push people away, and that's why I've been saying that I hated you and all these things. And Jennifer says, so wait, does this mean that you like me? And she sort of and Mariner's like, don't think about that. And she sort of drags her over in a very, where are her hand placed? She holds her hand for a second. I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here. I am now a Jennifer Mariner shipper. I'm going to call it Jariner? Jariner. I like Jariner. We'll go stick with Jariner for now. But I am now a Jariner shipper. I want it to happen. Jennifer and Mariner all the way. I'm here for it. I want it. But then we also get Captain Freeman saying she's going to turn down the promotion. She wants to stay on the ship. She's learned that she wants to, she doesn't need to be bigger because bigger isn't always better. The Cerritos crew is where her heart's at. And so she goes up to the conference room to turn down Starfleet's offer of promotion. But turns out, and this is where we get set up for the next season, turns out that Captain Freeman is under arrest for bombing the Pac-led planet, the Pac-led home planet. Supposedly she was working with, the signs point to her working with the Klingon extremists from last episode. Clearly we know that this isn't true, but who framed her? Why is this happening? What's going on here? Why is she being arrested? Very intriguing place for season 3 to start, because we see her being dragged out in front of all the crew who are lined up along the ways to clap for her promotion, just like Boimler said at the beginning of the episode. Very exciting to see where that storyline goes into season 3, along with Rutherford's mysterious people who implanted him with his implant. Yes, you know what I mean. So at the end of the day, that's the end of this episode. Like I said, this one was probably, it had funny moments, like the stuff with citation ops and a few jokes here and there, but this also honestly was one of the least funniest episodes of Lower Decks this season, but I by no means think that as a, not a compliment. I think that this episode was just a true, wonderful, epic episode, really classic, really great moments for mostly Mariner, but other characters had some really great stuff too, and also really warmed my heart. The moments where Rutherford decides to, delete his memories for Tendi was very sweet, and the moments with him and Phillips saying, like, is it worth all those backup memories, that was very sweet. The moment where Tendi calls out Mariner to say that, we are your family is so Star Trek-y and in theme. I mean, this episode just felt Star Trek through and through. It was also funny on top of that, if not the funniest episode, but still very funny. Gave us some great payoffs to Sonia Gomez, to finally seeing citation ops, and all those really wonderful things, and also setting up some intriguing plot lines for the future. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, each episode of Lower Decks really feels like it is a 40-minute episode condensed into one, and this really felt like that, and it felt just as grand and epic as any of the best episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and the original series, any of them, Discovery and Picard as well. This was a true great episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. Not as exciting as for me personally in terms of like just what it means as last episode, but on its own, this was a fantastic finale. Makes me realize how much I love the show, this characters, this world, and it makes me sad to see it go for another season, but of course we still have another season ahead and a lot more Star Trek on the way, so I'm excited to talk about all of that. Just one last little note, I will be doing a full review of the entire season, and I'll be coming because I'm going to write that one out and be a bit more produced video, so that will be coming in a few weeks, so look for that. That will definitely be happening. I'll be doing, as I said, the reviews of Star Trek Prodigy on my other channel and Star Trek Discovery, either on my other channel or this channel, but I will definitely be doing them either way, so be looking for that. I have more stuff planned on this channel. Thank you so much for following me for this entire season of Star Trek Lower Decks. I love this show, I adore this show, and I'm excited for it to come back. But thank you so much for watching now, and until Star Trek Prodigy or my next video that you catch on this channel, thank you so much for subscribing, liking, help me on Patreon if you want to help me there, and I hope that you, as always, live long and prosper.